Hi, everybody. This is your coach, J.DP, and you are excellent. Today, we're talking to Sonnya Kourteva. She's a transformation coach and speaker and founder of Emplified Solutions LLC, which is a coaching and consulting practice. She's dedicated to helping organizations and individuals thrive through a people first leadership and culture transformation. Sonia brings a unique blend of academic rigor and real world application to her coaching. She holds a BS in finance from NJCU and an MBA in finance and global business from Rutgers University. So you know she's the real deal. But here's the really interesting part. She's a certified body language specialist and through the Body Language Institute. And I'm dying to get into some of that with her because that's kind of like it's not every day that you meet someone who's certified in body language. Kourteva. Sonia, welcome to You Are Excellent. Oh, you're on.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Nice. It's so nice to be here with you, JDP. I am so excited to have this conversation with you. I've been looking forward to this for a little while, and so happy to be here.
Thank you very much. And so I want to welcome you wholeheartedly to You Are Excellent. Say, Sonia, before we get started, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. In my practice, I partner with leaders and entrepreneurs facing high stakes transition, whether it's stepping into a new role, launching or scaling a business, or redefining their leadership. It doesn't matter. It's so long as you're in transition, you're my person. Together, we sharpen their clarity, their confidence, and focus on purpose so they can build cultures where people don't just perform, but they thrive.
So interestingly enough, as a leader, I come to you. What are some of the clients that you're attracting when we talk about when they're seeking leadership coaching?
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm really big on liminality and transformation. This has been the theme of my life. I have had so many hats and so many jobs. And even within my 17 years corporate career, I had three distinct functions. I worked in three distinct functions. I started in asset management. I transitioned into diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. And then my last gig before I broke out into entrepreneurship was in HR and talent development. And so somehow, some way, inevitably, I attract the person who is in transition. This could be anything. It could be a person who had lost their role or a person who was recently promoted into a leadership role. And so now they have to switch gears from doing to leading and developing talent, or even to scale it up, leaders who have historically been in charge of teams or groups of individuals and now are becoming leaders of leaders. That's a whole other ball game, right? Another kind of person that I typically work with is a person who has worked most of their career in specific function, which is similar to my experience, right? And they find themselves not engaged or not passionate with the work, not aligned with the work that they're doing. And they're like, well, I've been an accountant all my life, but I've always dreamed to be a teacher, or I've always dreamed to be a pilot. But I don't know, how do you go from how do you make a 180 transition? And that's my passion. That's my forte. I live for liminality.
It's really interesting how, in my getting to know coaches, how we have diverse backgrounds. And one common thread in those backgrounds, however, is a human resource perspective, right?
Yes.
And so, how did we transition from that corporate experience now to, hey, you're a coach? Congratulations! How did we get here?
Oh my goodness. Well, I can tell you about my specific story.
Sure.
I'm not sure if that's valid for everyone, but for me, so yeah, my last gig was a director in HR, and I found myself the proverbial Don Quixote, fighting the corporate windmills and trying to convince the unconvincible to do the right thing for the people who actually create the magic in the organization, which is the employees. And when I were facing sort of a decision, do I want to continue working for like a corporate organization continuing the same kind of battles, or do I want to break out on my own and figure out, can I find organizations and leaders who actually get it and they want it, but they don't know how to go about it? And so kind of lean into those relationships with people and organizations who actually want to do the good work. As opposed to kind of following whatever, business or corporate strategy that doesn't always align with the people aspect of the organization.
So the transistor is the transistee.
Yeah.
I don't even know if those are real words or not, but
I
you
don't know,
have
but I like
them. You have your story of transition.
Yes.
So what were some of the challenges that you had to coach yourself through in moving from, one side of the pendulum and
Yeah.
swinging over, which is corporate
Yeah.
America, and swinging over to entrepreneurship?
Where do I start? We need to build a course on this, which I'm going to. So the first thing that I want to say is like, it's not in sort of in vain that we say that, when you're in a corporate environment, you have sort of the gold handcuffs or the golden cage, whatever the expression, right? Because we fail to realize that although yes, you're the product, right? Like you're the subject matter expert. You're the one that creates the magic when you walk into the room, but you don't ever have to worry about who your ideal client is because the organization dictates that for you. You don't even need to know exactly what your topic is or what your best topics are because the organization, the scope of your role sort of defines these things as well. You don't ever have to worry about marketing because you have probably, depending on the scope of or size of your organization, a multi-million superstar filled team of people who do marketing for the organization, and you sort of copy paste that, you take advantage of that, and you don't ever have to sell because the organization does this for you. And so I think, and my advice for people who are considering leaving the corporate or leaving organizational setting for their own businesses, to please be sure that you're up to the task, because as you're starting, unless you have unlimited resources or whatever, like like a golden egg or somehow like a whole lot of money set aside, you're going to be doing all of these things, and you got to change your story about these things. I remember the first thing that it was like a freight train had hit me. I was like, I have resistance for sales. Like, I don't, like if it feels weird, I'm having a visceral reaction, like what's going on? So I had to coach myself and say, okay, you're not a salesperson. You're not a person who's picking up the phone and cold calling and trying to sell something that you don't believe in, right? Like, you have a story and you have power in that story and you have impact that you've created in the world. And what you are selling, quote unquote, or rather I changed the word sell to share, right? I'm shouting from the rooftops to tell people, this is the kind of work I do. This is the kind of impact I can create for you. This is the kind of outcome you should expect. And if that resonates with you, if this is the problem you're trying to solve, I'm your person. And don't take it, like any kind of indication that you are not worth or there's something wrong with you or what you're passionate about. If that doesn't resonate with everyone, it actually can't resonate with everyone. And so that was one of the biggest and most powerful lessons that I think it happened for me, like right off the gate. So that I had to change my mind around that. And I have other stories, but this one is the most powerful one.
Oh, that's awesome. And when we spoke prior to me hitting the record button, it was kind of like one of those questions that's floating out there because we just talked about your experience in corporate America, your transition over to entrepreneurship and having a practice and flying solo or solopreneurship. And we talked about the transformation being the thread across those different milestones in your life.
Yeah.
And you're working with your clients in transformation.
Yeah.
So now that we're here on this side, there's two questions. So how long have you been in the entrepreneur side of things?
Actually, since late October of last year. Not too long.
Wow. So this is
Not
recent.
very recent, yes.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so now that we're on this side, what does transformation mean to you now?
It's interesting. Transformation is liminality, is change. And it's transitioning from one version of yourself to the next, and hopefully that's a better one. Not to say that you don't have some setbacks, because you do, but typically I think transformation is about moving from one phase or one shape version of who you are into the next ideal that you have in front of you. And obviously with the current information that's in front of you, because, a lot of people actually would say to me, well, the next best version of yourself is not actually your best version of yourself. And I beg to say, I think there's never your best version, optimal version of yourself, because I think we change all the way until we close our eyes forever. And I think we need to embrace this, because change is the only constant.
Here's a question for you, and I'll preface it with this. A lot of people who go into the coaching game try their hardest, but sometimes they are having a hard time finding success, right?
Mm.
And so the draw or the gravitational pull of going back to corporate America is very strong.
Mm-hmm.
At what point in your coaching did you go, oh yeah, this is working, or is it at this stage?
Yeah, I mean, I can't complain. I've already booked corporate, gigs. I have, clients who have purchased packages from me. I personally, for me, I think my corporate career worked really well, especially like the last 4 or 5 years of my career worked really well, because just the nature of my role put me in front of a lot of people. And when I was in HR for the last 2.5 years, I actually coached more than, I won't say, I'm probably being conservative, more than 600 individuals, of
Wow.
which I would say at least half of those were leaders of teams or people and leaders of leaders. And so it actually set me up to be seen. And so when I left the organization, a lot of these people actually reached out and be like, hey, are you actually continuing to do this on your own? And if you're not, you should. And if you are, I want in. And so it was kind of like, and even the corporate workshops that I'm doing, they all came through warm connections, through partnerships that I had built in my experiences in the corporate environment. So my advice to people is lean into what you've already built. Don't try to start from scratch. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. And I would go back to what I said earlier. Transformation happens all of the time. And you could start with something and maybe it doesn't really take, or it doesn't really resonate. Try to recalibrate. But I think banking on what you have already built up is what sets you up to hit the ground running off the gate. Now, I mean, there's really a staggering statistic. I think very recently I heard another coach saying this, that 80% of all new coaches close shop within 2 years of opening, which is really disheartening to me, because I think a lot of people kind of step into this analysis paralysis. What should I do? How should I do it? Trying to come up with something really big and holistic, and I can do this and this and this and the third thing. And they're losing focus from what's right in front of them. And I love, there's a quote, I think Maria Shriver had said this, that we spend our lives searching for our purpose, and our purpose is usually right in front of our eyes. So I would say lean into the things that gives you the most pleasure, you feel the most comfortable spending your time in, and trust, like, don't get inside of your own head, sort of, and trust that you will attract the right people. And those that are not your clients, they're just not your clients. And that's okay.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of those who are not your clients, and I will tell you my own experience,
Yeah.
is I have found great value in working with other coaches, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because sometimes a client might walk in the door, and this actually happened where I felt I'm not the coach for this person. And
Mm-hmm.
I told them straight up, I don't think I'm the coach for you. But I didn't want to leave. When I started my practice, I knew that was going to happen, and I didn't want to leave that person hanging, because I'm all about help.
Yeah.
And so I referred them to a coach that I know that I felt would be
Yeah.
more compatible for this
Yeah.
potential
Yeah.
client. And it worked out swimmingly for the coach and the client.
Yeah.
When
Beautiful.
you talk about, and so in entrepreneurship, we can pick and choose who it is we want to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Do
Mm-hmm.
you find that you're doing that?
Absolutely. I
Mm,
will tell you this. I had a person who I would describe as the perpetual victim. This is the person who never ever takes the slightest of steps forward, and it's always complaining. It's always out of their hands. They never have control. It's always someone else's fault. The universe, the circumstances, the people, the family, and never want to introspect and never want to seek, what am I in power of? What am I in charge of? What can I, have an impact on or influence on, and sort of even take the smallest, least prone to resistance step forward. And so it's only happened to me once, but when I find a person like that, and I've invested significant amount of time, and mind you, these people are paying customers, to me, that is, I think, the person that I would probably have to refer someplace else. So I hear you, and I think it's important. It's important for us to have clear boundaries with how we create impact, and how we, and our ability, really recognizing our ability to move a specific person forward, or their agenda, their goals forward.
Coaches are just humans.
That's
And
right.
there's a certain personality type that,
That's right.
that I know as a coach, as a human being, trigger me. Some folks just trigger me, and I'm just like, I can't.
I ain't your guy.
Let's look at the flip side of that. There are people that come to me, and I'm like, oh, I'm all about this,
right away.
So what gets you juiced up as a coach? What's that client look like?
Yeah, I mean, that's the for me, the ultimate client is the go-getter. The person who already has a very clear idea and well-defined goal, and they're just sort of they're not able to resource within themselves how to get there. And so, like, kind of cracking that, shell open to get that goodie, that seed on the inside, that nut on the inside, and to see them flourish into their own power and wisdom, and uncover that and move themselves forward. I mean, there's no price tag on that. I think that for me, I love that, which is, by the way, why I think people in transformation are the ones that gravitate towards me. Mm-hmm. You inevitably, when you're in transformation, whether you're forced into it or you're self-inflicting, you you gotta be doing things. You gotta be moving in order to get to the next thing. That's already planted. That's already there. So I don't have to dig to show you that's what needs to happen. So that, for me, that is just like skiing on a 60-degree weather. It's just like butter.
It's really, we're in very precarious economic times, right? So sometimes economy is up, economy is down, and there's a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of people are feeling uncertainty. With the advent of AI, don't get me wrong, AI is wonderful, but along with AI comes efficiencies, and then comes displacement, and then comes the need to transform, right? Because we may be forced to transition because our job went away. Let's just be honest.
Exactly.
So sometimes I find that folks are weighing hard skills. Let me go out and learn Python. Let me go out and learn AI prompting. Let me go out and learn this and that. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
However, there are folks who may be of a certain age or a certain circumstance that are now struggling because they kind of feel that the carpet's been pulled out from underneath them. And so all this to say that they may be on the fence about coaching, right? So how do you work through someone who comes to you and says, hey, I know this is valuable.
Yeah.
Or I think it might be valuable, but I'm not sure if I can commit right now. What do you say to those people?
Well, a couple of things. The first thing I would say is coaching has got to be the best thing since sliced bread. I mean, listen, everybody needs a coach. Everybody needs a coach. Coaches need coaches. You know this, right? I
know it very well. Trust me, right? I have 3 of them.
Yeah, exactly. So everybody needs a coach. And I think coaching is so fantastic because it's unlike anything else. It's really a wonderful container where you're prompted to uncover your own wisdom, your own resourcefulness. It's sort of like teaching you how to fish, as opposed to,
Ooh.
right? As opposed to consulting or mentoring. That's more advice giving, sort of, right? Like, oh, these are the things that work and these are the things that don't work. And let's co-create something that might, align with where you want to go. But coaching is really uncovering your own resourcefulness. And so when through coaching, you learn how to pull this stuff out on your own. If you should say in a moment you don't have the means, the financial means, or you don't have the time, you by have experienced this process, you could actually surrender to it and be like, okay, these are the questions that I know my coach would ask me. Let me ask myself. And whether through journaling or through bouncing back with someone who is safe space, a psychological safety sort of partner where you could kind of reenact this and you could sort of coach yourself and uncover what lives inside of you. I will tell you this. So many times I have given advice to people, not in coaching, just in general in life. And I'd say 75% of the time, it just didn't work out for the person. Why? Because that was my solution. It works for me because of the kind of person that I am, right? And say, if I go to an introvert and say, go and network, that's what's going to get you there, because that's what's going to get them there. But they're like, that sucks the living energy out of me. Like, that solutioning is just not for me, right? And they will have resistance for that advice and they won't go do it. But if I was to say, well, what are some of the things that have worked for you in the past? Right? Or what have you seen work for others that resonates with you? You're like, I can do this, right? Like I'm that person. I can go and I can do this, and have them come up with the answer. Now they're aligned with the strategy. They're aligned with what they need to, or tactics that they need to execute on in order to move forward. And that's just one example. That's an investment in yourself. That is not an expense. It's an investment in yourself because, like I said, it's like you're learning how to fish. You can set yourself up over time to be able to move yourself through situations and through challenges, even without the help of a coach.
And that is the short, sweet answer. Hard skills are an investment. Don't get me wrong. Hard skills, I'm going to learn carpentry. That's a hard
Yeah,
skill. I'm
sure
going
thing.
to learn how to program a computer, or I'm going to learn more about networking, or I'm going to learn about these things that I feel might be helpful in my career, or maybe help me personally,
Yeah.
just as human being. But when we talk about coaching, what does it mean to say it's an investment in myself and teach me how to fish for what?
For continuous change, for being excellent at changing, at
Mm.
molding into the next version of yourself. Because listen, here's the reality of existence in the present moment. And I think we had it so comfortable way back, and I'm gonna date myself right now, but in the 80s and the 90s, right? Like I think things were so much easier. Now I checked this actually 2 days ago for a workshop I'm doing tonight, and I think information doubles every other day. Information doubles every other day. Layer that with, you just said it, AI, generative AI, not just thing that is, plugged in and it produces whatever you needed in the speed of light, but actually generating new content, new ideas, new strategies, new marketing, new ways to sell, new everything, right? If you are not learning, if you're not, adapting, as quickly as you humanly can, you're going to become obsolete very, very quickly. And you're going to then find yourself in this predicament that I think you began to describe as these people who are kind of on the fence. Get off the fence, jump off the fence and get going, start running. Get off the fence and start running. Because these excuses that we have about, oh, well, I'm too old, I don't learn like I used to, or I can't no longer learn new things, or all of my life I've been doing all of this and I can't do anything else. Yeah, whether you think you can or you cannot, you are correct. So if you want to have a good life where that's worth talking about when you grow old, you really want to keep running and keep learning and keep bending, right? And I like to say we're like bamboo. We don't break, we bend. Keep bending and keep learning how to withstand whatever new is coming and how to change threat and challenges into opportunities. And I think that's where coaching plays a integral and phenomenal role to create that container, that safe container for people to experiment and to think out loud and to test and try things to see what yields the fastest and the most congruent, the fastest result in the most congruent way with who you are.
There it is. And get off the fence, people. Come on.
Get off
the fence. And I love what you said. It's not just get off the fence. Get off the fence and start running.
Yeah.
It might be old, but that's a new twist of just get off the fence, right? Because get off the fence and what? Okay, I'm off the fence.
No, yeah.
No, you got to start running. I love that. What are some of the things that you're seeing showing up from leaders coming to you in their workplaces? And so what's going on? What are some of the trends you're seeing that people are bringing to you?
I mean, look, the biggest trend has to do with AI. It's impossible these days to have a singular conversation without, without AI getting in the way of or kind of infusing the conversation. And I think leaders specifically, are struggling. Where is the line? Do I unleash the floodgates and just let everybody use AI abundantly, or is there something to be said about human creativity and innovation in a way that perhaps AI cannot, at least at these stages, copy? And it's interesting that you brought this up, but I was having a conversation with someone recently, and they were talking about how AI is actually, if we lean into AI to the most extent, right, we start to lose our ability to create, to be creative, to be innovative, to be to write content, even to write emails. I couldn't tell you how many people come to me like, holy crap, like I use AI for everything. I have not written an email since I learned that ChatGPT existed, right? And so, like, where is the fine line? I think where leaders are struggling. Where is that optimal line where we allow the AI to come into environment, and where do we pull back and say we want human creativity? I think that is kind of one of the bigger challenges.
I was actually listening to one of my favorite podcasts recently. As a matter of fact, this weekend. And one of the interesting things that the debate was about is, where does human creativity end and artificial intelligence, right, begin? And where we're talking about artificial intelligence, and we're talking about artificial super intelligence, and all these different variations thereof. But the one thing that this person came out with, he postulated that, well, we can have both.
Yeah.
Because you can't have one without the other, right? And so where do we overlap and accept that this is an integral part? And they likened it to the, and it was kind of interesting. Remember VisiCalc, which was the first commercially available spreadsheet? Yes, I remember VisiCalc. And they thought that's the end of accounting. That's it. It's over. VisiCalc, and then the VisiCalc became Lotus 1-2-3, which then became Excel. Blah, 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 blah. But the bottom line here is that no, it just allowed us to scale our capacity to produce.
Yeah, it's an amplifier. I think so long as we use it as an amplifier and not a replacement. So I think that's where, for me, when you're looking for the fine line of balance, I think you need to really examine where AI amplifies and where it replaces. And if it does replace, is it a meaningful replacement? Is it as powerful replacement as what we had before? Or are we just kind of stepping into that space because we can or because it's easier. But I think that there's something profoundly unique about human creativity in its beautiful imperfection. I don't think AI, at least in my humble opinion, will ever be able to imitate that.
Well, one of my favorite films is animated films. I'll just say that is The Incredibles. The first one, which was I really enjoyed with my children back when it came out.
Yeah.
And there's this one line I'll never forget, where the villain says, "Ha ha, I have you, and I'm going to make everybody super, like a superhero have superpowers.
Yeah.
Because when everybody's super, nobody will be."
Exactly. It creates a new level of normal. We raise the bar on normal, but it becomes, after a while, it will become a new level of normal. It's almost like when computers, right, became like a household item. I can't imagine my life without computers today. I have to be honest with you. I mean, and when I say computers, I mean like cell phones, laptops, like all the gamut of technology that we live, like the internet shuts down. Holy hell. My whole entire business has to come down, right? Like, all of these things but like I said, yes, you're absolutely right. I think, we raise the bar on normal, but yes, it becomes normal. I don't want to change the subject, but when you
Don't
talk
change the
about,
subject. Go ahead. This is, we're talking like, don't worry about it. Nobody's listening.
Yeah. So when you mentioned the Incredibles, the movie, and how like AI, right, like amplifies our already innate superpowers, it's so interesting that my mind actually took me to a more recent animated film. It's called The Wild Robot. Have you
Ooh,
seen The
yeah.
Wild Robot?
I've been meaning to watch that.
Oh my God, you absolutely have to. Like, first of all, I bawled out. Like, I was crying legit. Like, I mean, it was very emotional. But it's just so profound. I don't want to give too much to you, but I think that's the other side of things when it comes to AI, right? Like, that robot got lost in the forest and it became humanized, right? So, like, how do we raise the bar on our own normal, where like repetitive tasks, things that we hate to do, things that is just not inspiring or creative, get outsourced to things that can do it significantly faster and more efficient than us? But also, how do we bring the other side over and give it what's best about us? Right? Like, where is the synergy? Like, how might we think about that? I think that's a bigger question for me. I don't know what you think.
So we started out with coaching and ended up talking like
AI.
esoteric about AI, and so what you're saying here is that these are issues that everybody is trying to cope with.
Absolutely everybody.
Yeah,
Absolutely
and in
everybody.
the workplace, in their personal lives, and you said something really interesting. You said, "Listen, John, I cannot imagine the world without the computer." I can, yeah. I'm part of that generation that created it. So, um, uh, when we're talking to leaders, and these are some real issues that they're grappling with, right? And so, as a coach, how are you helping these leaders sort of navigate these new uncharted waters?
Yeah. I mean, listen, asking really big, curious questions and understanding what is the goal that these leaders are trying to accomplish. And, employee centricity is my thing. I think I might have even showed you my employee centricity framework the last time we spoke. And if I haven't, I'll show it to you next time. But for me, I think the human is at the center of everything. And so how do you create an environment where you're supporting your human assets, and you are continuously thinking about new opportunities for upskilling and reskilling and repurposing, right? And I think you mentioned something very cool earlier. You said prompt engineering, and I think, listen, I recommend that prompt engineering should start at second grade and should be taught across. Like, everybody should be given opportunity to to upskill with prompt engineering, because that's the future. So like if there's one thing that I could leave, audience with is start with prompt engineering. No matter what business you're going to be in, AI technology will be implemented in that business sooner or later. And the better you are managing this, the more indispensable you become. And so to go back to the question with how I coach leaders is I ask them to try to understand or help them really zero in on what is it that they're trying to accomplish, what is the purpose, the goal that they're trying to accomplish, the impact that they're trying to create, and where is that balance between, like I said, upskilling your employees, your people, your team, to then integrate technology in a way that is optimal for your organization without sacrificing the human element.
In your coaching journey, the actual coaching itself, how have you seen it evolve over the time that you've been coaching? I think you were been in the ecosystem for 17 years or something like that. That's what you said at the top. So how have you seen coaching evolve?
I would say the coaching itself, I mean, I shouldn't say it hasn't evolved, because obviously it has. But like at the core of coaching to me is, like I said, that safe container where you can process, where the customer, the client, the coachee can process. And the coach is really driving in with big, curious questions that uncover what lives inside of you, the solutioning that lives inside of you. So I think that hasn't changed. And I think that shouldn't change. Now, how coaching has changed, I mean, obviously technology has enabled us tremendously. And so I think going back, I think inevitably we're hitting this AI topic. But I think that's what's changed, the technology around it, and how it enables us to serve perhaps more people than we could have if we were still doing this via telephone or via like in-person one-on-one, which is, how coaching traditionally began.
As a coach, do you have a preferred modality of interacting with your customers, whether that be online, in person, on the phone?
I would say my least preferred modality is telephone, because I cannot see. Remember, you are very interested in my ability with body language.
Oh, so I'm going to get. That's on my next question. But go ahead.
Yeah. I cannot see my client. And yes, I can intuit because I'm highly intuitive. And there's like obviously like voice cues and pauses and things and breathing that you could get the cues from, but it's not the same like watching the person. I would say my most favorite has been a walking coaching session, as a matter of fact. There's something really unique, although I prefer to have an ability to take notes, because sometimes the person would go on and how sometimes like 17 topics will be covered before the person stops, and you're like, I know I had like 17 things that ping me in my head, and now I only remember the first and the last. So I prefer to have something where I can, when stuff comes up for me, I can jot down at least a word or something to remind me, talk to him or her about, talk to them about X or Z, or this is what lit me up and I want to know more about that. But a walking coaching session was something really unique for me. It's actually, so first of all, when you are walking, you're activating both sides of your brain because both sides of your body are moving. And so you're as analytical as you are creative. And I couldn't tell you, like the couple of people that I have done this with had each one a big ahas. And really were able to leave the session with a direction and tangible steps and just clear idea of what needs to happen next. I mean, and it's an excellent, I always like 2 for 1. I just love 2 for 1s, right? Like you get your exercise, you get your breathing, and you get a coaching session, right? Like, and you move your agenda forward. So, I mean, that's definitely something that is unique, although it's not very accessible across the board. Because if I'm in New Jersey, if I'm coaching someone in California or in Florida, there's clearly not a walking coaching session happening unless we're
Yeah,
both.
grab your phone, Agnes, get out there
Yeah,
and go walking, and then we'll talk. Hey,
exactly.
here's a question. So, and I know we have a few minutes left, but I wanted to touch on this certified body language specialist.
Yes.
What?
Yeah, I know. So Janine Driver, I'm gonna drop a name because I love her. She's amazing. She is like, I think she calls herself the lion tamer. And not lion as in, it's a play on word, right? Like not lion as in real lion, but rather the lying people who she tames, right? And so, she had come to Prudential and she had in one of the conferences, she had a keynote, and she had a raffle. And so she's like, I'm just going to check on who was listening in the audience. And she asked like a completely random question. And it was like, nobody was raising their hand. I'm like, I think that I heard that. So I raised my hand. I was like, this is what, and she's like, I love it. I'm going to give you a full scholarship to my certification. And I was like,
Sweet.
I'll take that. So I traveled to Maine, and I was in her cohort, and it was an absolutely fabulous experience. I think it was like 3 or 4 full days. It was super interactive. I mean, we were out there in the real world doing things and testing things. And it's just like, it was fabulous. It was a great experience. And it's just amazing the kind of things that you learn. And later on, I actually at the time hadn't even gotten involved with diversity, equity, and inclusion, and belonging. But when I stepped into that, oh man, did that come in handy, especially with microaggressions and microexpressions. And like, my favorite thing is, this is nothing to do with diversity and inclusion, but like my daughter, she thinks she's very cute when she goes like this with her nose. Like I can't even imitate it, but they think they're so cute when they scrunch their nose. I'm like, this is a micro expression of disgust. So if you think you're very cute, you're actually sending a signal to the person who's watching you that you're disgusted. So that's not good.
I think I need to take that for my own kids.
Yeah.
Hey, Sonia, this has been a pleasure and a
Same.
thrill.
Same.
But before we go, is there you've dropped so many little diamonds of knowledge, but if you could sum it all up, if you had to talk to my audience, what would you leave them with today?
I would say get with change. Make yourself comfortable in change. I know we all think that maybe we don't realize that change is all around, but it really is. And the other thing is certainty. I think so many people want certainty in their life, and I would say certainty doesn't exist. It doesn't exist because we live in a probability universe. And what it does, and our brains are perfect probability calculating machines. And what it says is if you wake up 17 days in a row, and I don't know why I'm picking on this number 17, but like if you wake up 100 days in a row and you do the exact same routine, the brain calculates now that with pretty high probability, say 99.99999% of the time, you're going to wake up next morning and you're going to do all of these same things that you've been doing for the past 100 days or 100 years, whatever, right? It's not true. It's not true because there's still this 0.00001% that the phone is going to ring and the whole world is going to fall apart, right? Or something else is going to happen and your world is going to change completely. And so like, I want to say to people, for those of you who are averse to change and want certainty in your life, it doesn't, that predicament doesn't exist, not in our realm, not here, not on earth, right? Like not in our experiences. So get comfortable with uncertainty and get comfortable with change. And I'll give you, the proof is in the pudding. However old you are, however many experiences you've had, jobs, titles, change of any kind, right? That is proof that we are perfectly designed to exist in uncertainty. And you've beat it every single time because you're here. You're here now. And you will continue, more than likely, 99.9999% sure that you will continue to exist fairly well, if not exceptionally well, in uncertainty. So embrace uncertainty, embrace change.
Embrace the change, baby.
Mm-hmm.
Sonia, thank you so much for being here today and talking with us. You're amazing, and we so
Thank
much
you.
appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for the opportunity. This has been another fabulous conversation. Let's keep them going.
Guys, we've been talking to Sonnya Kourteva. She is a speaker, founder of Emplified Solutions, and she's a coach, she's a consultant. Basically, she's awesome. And her links to her bio and social will be in the description below. And please feel free to drop any questions that you might have for Sonnya. I'm sure she'd love to hear from you. And if there's anything that we can be covering in terms of topics that you're interested in, or you have some comments about the conversation that we've had, please feel free to comment. This is your coach, J.DP. And always remember, you are excellent. We'll see you next time. Bye.